What's going on, everybody? It's etaprime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new Onexplayer G1. When it comes to this new handheld gaming device from Onex, they are offering a couple different CPU variants, and we will talk more about that in just a bit. But this is one that I've really been excited about, and as you can see, it is a bit different from some of their other newer handhelds they put out on the market. With this, we've got a smaller laptop design with built-in controls, and Onex isn't a stranger to designs like this. In fact, their parent company, One Netbook, really started out making devices like this. And this is kind of a continued evolution of what they've been making. And you might be asking yourself, where's the built-in controls? Well, they're actually right under this detachable keyboard. And we also have another touch-style keyboard here with the trackpad built in. Personally, I love this design because it really just kind of gives you one device to carry around for gaming and work. And when that keyboard is detached, it's not totally useless. While it's connected to the device, it's actually using pogo pins to connect to the handheld itself. But once we detach it, we can connect it wirelessly if you need. The new G1 features an 8.8-inch 144Hz LTPS display, and it does look really good. They claim up to 500 nits of brightness, but I do think that this is definitely getting a bit brighter than 500 nits. Down here, obviously, we've got our built-in controls, Hall-based analog sticks. It also has Hall-based triggers, a new D-pad design, which I'm actually a fan of. It does work pretty well. We will be doing some testing by the end of the video. All the hotkeys we need built in here: start, select. We've got a keyboard button. We've also got a mode button for that built-in touch keyboard, because right in the center of it, we do have a touchpad. And with the right hotkey combination, you can actually set this up so the whole thing works as a touchpad to control the mouse. If you want to go that route, you definitely could, but we've also got a touchscreen built in. So there's lots of different ways that we can navigate our operating system here, including that detachable keyboard. I've had the new G1 in my possession for about 24 hours, so this is more of a first look video. I'm kind of getting used to using the device. I want to get a lot of testing out of the way before I do a full review. But so far, I've been really enjoying this device, and I'm a big fan of these kind of 2-in-1 handheld mini laptop devices, because when I travel, I don't want to carry a bunch of devices with me. With something like this, I can get a lot of work done with the chipset they opted to use, and then when it's time to game, I can just go ahead and pull that other keyboard off and game all day long. The built-in controls do feel really nice, and again, we've got those Hall-based analog sticks and Hall-based triggers. Speaking of the triggers, these have a lot of throw when you compare them to other devices on the market, so this is something I really like for racing games. That way I've got full control over that gas and brake. And for all of the games that I'm personally playing right now, this has more than enough power to run them at full speed, and that's because this is powered by the AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370. But that's not the only chipset they're going to be offering the G1 with, because over on Indiegogo right now, you can opt to pick this up with the Ryzen 7 8840U or even the Intel Ultra 7 255H, which isn't on the market yet. I will be doing a lot of testing with that chip very soon, so keep an eye on the channel. But when it comes to the HX370 version, with this we get 12 cores, 24 threads, and the Radeon 890M iGPU. Now, this is one of the most powerful iGPUs on the market right now. We get 16 compute units, and it's based on RDNA 3.5. You can opt to get one of these with up to 64 gigabytes of RAM running at 7500 megahertz. We've got that 144Hz 8.8-inch LTPS display with a resolution of 2560 by 1600, 97% DCI-P3, and they claim up to 500 nits of brightness, but to my eye, I mean, this thing is getting a lot brighter than that. It's got a 2280 PCIe 4.0 M.2 SSD up to 4 terabytes, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, and a 51.97 watt-hour battery. When it comes to I/O, over here on the left-hand side, we do have a micro SD card reader. On the right-hand side, power button / fingerprint sensor, and around back, 3.5mm audio jack, Oculink port for connecting a really fast eGPU, a full-size USB 3.2 port, and 2 USB 4 ports. Taking a look at the overall layout here, right on the control deck, top left-hand side, we've got our volume control. On the right-hand side, we've got our brightness control. So we've got physical buttons for both of those, and right down here, we've got our turbo button, which is going to bring up the Onex console. From here, we can control the TDP, RGB, everything like that. And right next to that turbo button, we do have kind of a mode control for the built-in touch keyboard. So out of the box, the way it sits, we can actually use the whole surface as a touchpad. You can see I can control that mouse, no problem at all. But once I hit this button, we've actually got access to the touch keyboard. And while that's enabled, we can actually just use the middle right in between the keyboard as our touchpad. And if you wanted to type on this in handheld mode, you definitely could, but personally, with a lot of these devices, I do one-hand mode. So I'll just hold the device with my left hand, type with my right hand, and that's how I've been using this unit here. And one thing I like to mention here is when you remove that physical keyboard, just to get to those controls, there is a bit of a ridge, as you can see here. It's not horrible, and if you've got larger hands, you just kind of go right over it. Doesn't hurt your palm or anything like that, but some people may need to kind of reach over if you've got smaller hands. The first thing I wanted to test here was this new D-pad, and I'll tell you the truth, when I first saw this, I was a bit worried. I didn't think it was going to work out really well. As you can see, kind of a close-up here, it's almost flush with the body. Now, I usually don't like D-pads like this, but with the way they have this set up, it's a super smooth action. So with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite here, I can pull these special moves off without even trying. It is a very smooth action. You don't have to put much force on it, and usually I like a little bit of feedback. Feels like a softer D-pad, but I say they did a pretty decent job with this one. And they did have to keep it low, due to that removable keyboard that you can take on and off. The next game we have here is Forza Horizon 5, and for this, it kind of gives me a good idea of how well these analog sticks and especially the triggers work. So these are definitely linear triggers, they're Hall-based, and you just give it a little bit of input here. Perfect for launch control, drifting, just kind of finessing the brake and gas. And these triggers have a lot more throw than I thought they would. I mean, with a device like this, you kind of see, you just have a little bit to go with. But with this, I've got kind of a full range across the board. And performance here with the HX370 and Forza Horizon 5, we're only at a 15 watt TDP, medium 1200p, no FSR. We're seeing an average of around 78 FPS. And of course, we can take that wattage up if we want to. But with this game, I wouldn't mind locking it down at 60 medium, and I could definitely save more power that way. In fact, 13 watts locked at 60 FPS. Like all of Onexplayer's new handheld gaming PCs, we do have 1X console built in here. And with the HX370, we can go down to 4 watts up to 30 watts. I've been sticking around 15 to 18 with some of the newer stuff if you want to take that resolution up. Going up to 30 is where it's going to be at. Full fan control, so we've got 2 different modes. We can control the curve if we need to, but I've been leaving it at auto. And of course, we've got all of the essentials like our resolution switch. We can disable the turbo on the CPU. We can set up the gyro, screen brightness, volume, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and we've got RGB control. So there's a bunch of different profiles built in here. Some of them do look better than others. My favorite is the Cyber version, kind of a blue and a purple. We've also got solid colors that we can work with. And when it comes to brightness control, there's 3 different brightness settings. I'd say number 3 is really bright here. I've been sticking to 2 while filming, but while using this in my free time, I leave it at 1. And before we test out some more gaming, I did want to take a look at some benchmarks that I ran on this, and we're going to be facing this off against the Z1 Extreme. So when it comes to Geekbench 6 at a 25 watt TDP, on the HX370 and the G1, 2,940 single core, multi 13,789. And at the bottom, we've got the Z1 Extreme here, 2,401 single, 10,550 multi. So yeah, on the CPU, we're still getting a nice little boost here, and I suspected we would, especially on multi, given that we've got 12 cores and 24 threads with the HX370. I also ran 3D Mark Time Spy to 25 watt TDP. On the 1X G1 with the HX370 and that 890M iGPU, we got a total score of 3,870. And over on the Z1 Extreme with the RDNA 3 12CU iGPU, 3,221. So watt for watt, yeah, the HX370 is definitely beating out the Z1 in CPU and iGPU performance. Now I want to jump back into some more gaming on the G1. And the first one we have here is Marvel Rivals. This is actually the first time that I'm playing this game. We're at 1200p medium 30 watt TDP. This is an early access game, and I know there's more performance optimizations that need to be had with this. I do think around 20 watts at 1200 with a low medium mix down the road will be totally possible on the HX370. Next up, this is one that I've been playing quite a bit recently. It's Japanese Drift Master, and again, another early access game. Kind of killing myself here with these, but 1200p medium settings, 30-watt TDP. I locked this down at 60. It actually runs at about 85 FPS, but with this game, I've noticed, going over 60 with a lower end setup, even if you can run it there will be a lot of dips, but locking it down at 60, 30 watts, full speed across the board. Next on the list, we've got Cyberpunk 2077. We're at 1200p low at a 30-watt TDP. Now there are ways to really take the wattage down and still get full speed out of this game. Like obviously dropping the resolution down is going to help a lot, but with it set up like this, we're seeing 68 FPS on average. Now at a 30-watt TDP on most handhelds, we're not going to get a ton of battery life out of it. So I would suggest just using frame generation. It's here, FSR 3 built into the game. Now we're at 1200p low 17-watt TDP with frame gen on, getting a higher frame rate than we were at 30 watts. And I know some people out there are against frame gen, but when you're working with a low-end system and you kind of got to get as much as you can out of your system, I think that this is the best option we have right now. And the final game we have is God of War Ragnarok. I absolutely love playing this game on the HX370 because with frame gen on, we can actually run this at an 18-watt TDP, over 70 FPS on average. So we're at 1200 low, and we could take the wattage up even with frame gen on to medium if you want to. But at an 18-watt TDP with frame gen on, it performs absolutely amazingly on the HX370. So in the time I've spent with the new Onexplayer G1, I've had a really good time with it, but I am a fan of this kind of form factor here. These are the kind of devices that I like to travel with, but I've got a lot more testing that I need to put into this. Obviously, we need to do some battery life testing, thermal testing. I will have a full review video coming up in, I'd say, the next 3 to 4 days. I definitely need to spend more time with this, so if there's anything else you want to see running on the G1 in my review video, let me know in the comments below. I'll be sure to test out Oculink eGPU support. I know we'll see some crazy performance even if we just pair it up with the 7600 MXT, but I've got the Onexplayer eGPU 2 with the 7800, so that'll really get us past 1440p on this machine. But that's going to wrap it up for this first look video. If you're interested in learning a little more about the Onexplayer G1, I'll leave some links to their official website and Indiegogo in the description below. And like always, thanks for watching.